Hi, and welcome to Let's Get Clinical, tips from the CRA helper. Here is your host, Elizabeth Waddell.
Hi, Elizabeth here, and welcome to episode 6, where I will be discussing recommendations for the home-based CRA. By the end of this episode, you will learn the tips for being a successful remote clinical research associate. That's a mouthful, right? But depending on the company and the city you live in is going to depend if you begin as remote, which is also known as a home-based CRA. So for example, my last company, all CRAs, no matter what, if they were hired with the role of CRA, they were home-based. Now, other companies, some are, if you live within 30 minutes of an office location that they have, then some may require that you work in the office. Now, when I got my start as an on-site monitor, I was in the office, even though I lived an hour and a half away. I was new to the role. So after about 6 months, I was finally able to go remote. So at that particular company, if you were new to the role, then they wanted you to get acclimated to the responsibilities and the deliverables before being home-based. So again, each company is different in regards to that. But working from home, that sounds like completely awesome, right? So there are many positives, but on the other hand, others can get distracted. They can be less productive or disciplined, and some people actually can feel isolated. So I wanted to take this time during the episode to go over tips regarding working from home and ways to prevent some pitfalls. So like I said before, some people aren't crazy about working from home, which I'm like, what? I can't believe that because I absolutely love it. But still, everyone has their own opinion. So including my sister, she was actually one of those that felt and still feels more productive in an office environment. So she's a mortgage loan officer who is awesome at her job, by the way. And she prefers working in an office environment. Now, she does both, but that's just what she prefers. And it can be easy to get distracted by things that need to be done at home, as well as if you have family members that are home during the day as well. So that brings me to my first point of having a designated workspace that you can separate yourself and really treat like, hey, I'm going to the office. I might be walking a few steps, but this is my office. This is my set space. So like for me, I have an office in my house and I can close the doors and create that boundary, especially during times when I can't be disturbed. I'm on a call, or maybe I even had to focus on a very important deliverable that, that has a very urgent timeline. So, I can't be disturbed. I got to focus. I got to get this done. So family definitely has to be involved in the decision as well with you as far as working from home. And they need to understand, that you are working just as if you were in an office. And I actually had an extended family member, and she would ask me, it might be like a Tuesday, for example, and she might go, oh, do you have to work tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, I work Monday through Fridays each week. But, and that kept happening a couple times. Like, are you working today or do you have to work tomorrow? And I was kind of wondering why she would ask me that. Well, it ends up, she thought I was only working when I was traveling to sites. So, and when I was home, she thought I was off. So I then had to explain my job, and I'm like, even though I'm in town, I'm still working. I'm getting all my administrative stuff done. I'm working in the office, just like if I was physically at an office location. So it was funny. So I finally got that explained. But I will tell you, there are some others that need to understand that we're working from home too. And that is our fur babies. So my pets, oh my gosh, my pets are crazy. But for those who don't know, I have 4 dogs and 2 cats, 5 of which are rescues, and they're my babies. Oh my goodness. But sometimes I'll be in the office, I'll have the door closed, and they are scratching, and it's like, I'm trying to explain it where you can picture it, but it's like French doors. So them scratching at it, or it can get like, or even if they're knocking on it, it can kind of wobble and make a loud noise. It's kind of weird to explain. But, and then because it's French doors, you can see their little faces. So I'll hear scratching, I'll hear like a knock or wobble, and then I just see these little faces peering through, and I'm like, oh my goodness. And sometimes if I'm on a call and I'm not on mute, I'm kind of looking at them like, like go, but, so I kind of learned sometimes that it made less noise just to let them in, just go ahead and come in. Cause that way I knew they wouldn't be coming to the door later. But, and when they're in with me, they're fine. They don't bother me while I work. But, like I said, when I'm on a call, it's almost like that's their cue that it's going to happen, So there was one time, I was on a call and I wasn't on mute because I was talking, so I was teaching something, and two of my dogs, they started wrestling each other right at my feet, like under the desk. They started wrestling. So they're going like, wah, 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 and I'm like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Out of all the places in the entire house, this is where you guys choose to wrestle. I was about to die, but thank God it wasn't a big call. But it was funny because one of the people I was training is like, I thought I heard some dogs. And he goes, and I knew it was you, but still. So that's where you kind of have to make the decision of if you're going to keep them out, let them in. But which brings me to my next important topic, and this is important if you're working from home or in an office, that people have a hard time with, is the mute button. For some reason, people have such a hard time with this. And I remember I actually had to do a training, and it was for, I want to say it was data privacy and medical research. So I'm doing this training, and we had to actually record it for those because it was a mandatory training. So if you couldn't attend, you're out traveling, you had to listen to a recording. So I'm trying to record, and there are people talking to site staff. There's people like clanging, that loud clanging on the keyboard. And you'd always say, can you please mute your phones? Everybody, can you please mute your lines? And those people obviously weren't paying attention because they were the ones not muting their lines. So I'm like, oh, great. So not only that, you're like not paying attention to the training on top of it, but anyway, so, that's one of the big things is people not muting your phone. So have you ever, and it's just a side note, I thought it was the funniest thing when I saw it posted, but have you ever played teleconference bingo? And it's so funny because I don't know if you've seen it. It looks like a bingo board. And I've seen posts with it, and they'll, put little things on there that always happen at a conference call, like whatever you're on, no matter what. And so it's called like conference call bingo or teleconference bingo. And like some of the common ones, I'm sorry, I just have to throw a couple funny ones out there, but there's always, like I said, can you mute your phone? Or there's always a dog barking, or somebody will go, oh, sorry, I was on mute. or this one's good. Hi, who just joined? And then, like I said, the sound of someone typing, which is always like a clanging, like a hammer or clanging or long nails, it's always so loud. Or let's see what some of the other ones, I'll name two more. Can everyone see my screen? Or, what was the last one? Or if there people like chime in, you're still sharing, So some of those are the funny ones. And I thought that was hilarious because usually you do hear these things on like every conference call, especially the bigger ones, the more people that you have. So, but anyway, I'll give one more example and then we'll get off the mute button. But, but there was one time, okay, I've been in research for 18 plus years. Always been good. See, I was the opposite. I was like very paranoid with the mute button. Like I would have my phone muted, as well as like if you're on WebEx, like there's like a little microphone next to your name. You can click that. So I was sometimes like double mute. And so I was always very good about it. Well, one time I was caught not on mute, and it was, one of my, we were training the new CRAs in a 12-week program, and one of my colleagues who, I was really close with, thank God. And it was the new trainees who were completely sweet and awesome. You become like a family when you're training them. And so it was my dogs, of course. No, they were getting on my nerves that day, and they had to go out. And I finally was like, and they had to keep going out. And I finally was like, you guys need to hurry up because I'm on a call or something like that. And I noticed that I wasn't hearing a voice anymore. And I looked over and I saw my colleague's face kind of like look confused for a second. I thought, oh my gosh, I just said that and I wasn't on mute. So, of course I chimed in. I had everybody laughing. I apologized, for that, but thank the Lord I wasn't on the phone with like a sponsor or, a big upper management meeting or something. So anywho, just always make sure your phone's on mute if you're not the one talking, for sure. But like I mentioned earlier, we definitely want to keep boundaries. So we want to protect our time as we work remotely, as we're home-based, protect that time. Like I said, it's so tempting when you have things to do around the house, or you can get distracted easily. And also, especially in this day and age, really stay off social media, save that for later because you want to stay focused, not get distracted, get things done, get those deliverables done. Remember in that time management episode, episode 2, there are a lot of deliverables that a CRA must get done. And sometimes you don't have a lot of office days, to really devote to that. So definitely want to stay off the social media till later. And like I said, the temptation of doing household chores, and some people actually go as far as not answering their home phone. Now, each person has their own way of what works for them and how to stay focused. So after you've kind of got to that point, okay, I know I got to protect my time. I've mastered discipline. So now let's be productive. Let's make sure we're productive as we work from home. And a good way for this, especially for me, is like making those to-do lists. So like I talked about with the time management, there are many deliverables and priorities that you have to get done. Sometimes depending on what pops up, you may have to rearrange your priorities, but make those to-do lists of what you need to accomplish with that office day. Again, you may only have 2 office days that week or 1 office day that week. It just depends. And then sometimes on Fridays, you may have team meetings. So sometimes one of the few days you're in the office, which is really, if you're home-based, your house, but still one of those, days, you may have meetings, you have multiple meetings, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff I need to do as well. So have that to-do list, be productive. I always love to use calendars, planners, reminders. And then with the to-do list, I love to be able to just line through stuff as I am just crossing things off, as I complete them. So definitely know what has to be done and put it in the order of priority and just be productive and focus on that, while you're working. Now, this next one. I have to admit, I don't follow this one every day, but another recommendation when working from home that we have is, getting out of your PJs, which I'll admit I don't follow every day. Right now, for example, I'm in sweats. It's so, it's so comfy working in PJs or your sweats. But I will say, when I actually wake up, I have that morning routine and I'm waking up, have my coffee, and I get ready. It does give you more energy, and I do feel more productive for some reason, and plus you feel better too. So I think all around, like when you're actually treating it as I'm getting ready, I'm going, working in the office, it is, I don't know, it does feel, you do feel more professional, more productive. It's so funny, but days when I'm working in my PJs and I look absolutely gross, it's so embarrassing. Like when there's like a FedEx package that comes, for example, or, maybe I just have to run out and grab something. I feel like people probably look out the window and think, good gosh, does that girl work? It's like, because I look so atrocious, but, and especially if I do it multiple days, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a slob, but, but that leads me actually to my next point is it's so easy to keep right on working that when you're done, you may have dinner, spend some time with family, whatever it may be. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I've worked all day in the house. I've, never left this evening. And you feel like, oh my gosh, all I've been doing is sitting all day and barely have taken any steps. Oh wow. I've done, especially if you track your steps. I was trying to wear one of those. And it'd be like, oh wow, I took a whopping 300 steps today. So So I definitely recommend take short breaks. If you can exercise, take a quick walk, get some fresh air, get some sunshine. I mean, there was one time, I'm not kidding, I probably, especially when I got into the role where I didn't travel as much, there was one time I was like vitamin D deficient, and it probably resulted from me not going out as much. Isn't that sad? But you just get so focused on I'm working. Okay, now family time in the evening, and it's just like boom, and then the cycle's the next day. So take short breaks. If you can exercise, take a quick walk. And then since, especially if you take the advice of, oh, I'm already ready. Then once you're done working, boom, maybe you can go out to dinner with your family. So definitely take that time. Because in college, I'm sure you've heard of the freshman 15. Well, being a CRA can gain weight. And I've definitely experienced it. I mean, some of mine's been because of medicine, but you can definitely gain weight if you're not careful. Because when you're on the road, I know for me, I've been with other co-monitors and they have great eating habits. But for me, I didn't eat well at all. Not that I'm completely disciplined in that area, but on the road, it was like even worse. Like, I wanted to have snacks with me while I was monitoring because I was one of those, I wanted to get as much done as I could. And I would just have my snacks with me. So I never really took the time to leave the site for lunch. But, so you had that. And of course I had coffee. Oh my goodness. I had my coffee after coffee. And then sometimes I would just be so starved by dinner time or when I was done working that I would completely blow it, because by then you're starved. So that's obviously not, great. And then days I'm working from home, what am I doing? I'm sitting on my butt in the chair all day working. So all that can, it can add up. It definitely can add up. So definitely taking the time, get some exercise in that routine. And of course, watching what you eat, because you're very close to your kitchen when you're at home. So you can definitely go in and out getting, snacks all day. So anywho, but, so I wanted to point that out. I think that's a great tip, because I'm trying to, especially now, that I really don't travel, like I did as a CRA. I'm really trying to make sure that I follow these steps as well. So because it's important to have that work-life balance. And it's funny because you think, well, I'm working from home. Of course, I'm having a great work-life balance, but really sometimes you can almost overdo it because you have access to everything right here. Like, you want to set work hours, and then when you're done, close the door and start back the next day. It's hard because, see, when you work in an office, like when I was at an office location, you leave and everything's left there except what you need to take, like if you're going on a trip. But, then you're at home. But when you're at home, you have access to all your work. And I feel like it's just like calling your name, because something may pop in your head and you may think, oh, I got to go get that done. You run on in and do it, but if you work in an office location, you don't have that temptation, as much as if you're right here and just everything's here. So, and also it's easy to keep right on going, so definitely set those boundaries here as well, but to say, hey, you know what? I'm stopping for today. Now, regarding that feeling of isolation, as a CRA, I really didn't struggle with that because I was constantly on the road. So I had plenty of interaction while traveling and when I was on site. So, and then usually you have team meetings when you're back in the office. So I really never struggled with that part, being a clinical research associate. But one of the blessings with being a CRA is there's such an opportunity for growth. So one day you may become a lead or a project manager or line manager or a trainer like me, and you might not travel as much. So some people may have that feeling of isolation. So if that's the case, one thing that helped us is like we'd pick up the phone and sometimes, talk to someone rather than email. And then also when we would train the new CRAs, like once a week on our training calls, we might have a do video meetings, video chat. And that way it kind of helps with that quote unquote in-person time. You can have that time with your team. And it's fun too, be able to see each other's faces with a name, and, you just feel more personable. So that definitely helps. And of course you're emailing people all day and things like that. I didn't struggle too much even as a trainer with that part of it, but that's just a tip, definitely talking on the phone with your team and using video meetings and chat, really helps. But so that takes me back to the getting ready part, because the days when you're on video, I'm going to have to throw some makeup on and do something with my hair because I wouldn't want to, give the team nightmares. So so definitely the getting ready part, that helps with that too. But lastly, working from home, it's such a privilege. And we did have those that took advantage of it. With instant messaging, with my last company, you could see someone's status if they're online or if they're in a meeting. And sometimes you'd see like, okay, this person is never on. And to boot, they were always late with, reports, anything they needed. They were always late with what had to be turned in. And again, they were never online. So it's kind of like, what is this person doing? Now, I was the opposite. I was always updating my manager if I had to like run to a quick appointment, just so they knew where I was, that I was out. I'll make up the time when I return. I'll have my cell if you need me. And it's nice. And it builds that trust with your manager as well. So, you want to be available. That's a huge thing. When you're working from home, you want to prove yourself. You want to show that you can be accountable and available, that you're not taking advantage of working from home. So, definitely make sure of that. So being a home-based CRA, it's such a blessing. And to be successful, it's all about boundaries, being accountable, and discipline. So, if you have any questions, definitely feel free to email me at thecrahelper@gmail.com. And just thank you so much. Thanks so much, guys. And if you like what you hear, hit subscribe, and you can check out my free resources at thecrahelper.com. And next week, I'm going to dive into some common audit findings. So that sounds fun, right? But thanks again. And I pray you guys have a great day. Until next time.